Welcome back to another episode of Alpine Garage Sports. My name is Chris and I am your host for this show. And today we're talking about spring practices that are going on. We've already had 2 of them and you've seen some excellent footage out there where we're actually starting to get some mild contact going, hand contact, those kinds of things. Receivers are getting in their routes, are being checked by the defensive backs, and you have the running backs going through drills. This is really exciting. And when you look at them, they look like they're in way better shape now than they were a couple of months ago. And so I thought this would be a very good time to kind of bring up altitude and where these guys are at in their altitude cycle, getting prepared for the season that's coming up. So we did a video about a month and a half ago that talks about CU's altitude advantage. It's an altitude advantage that we've always had, and we really started realizing it in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and forward. And I went ahead and I broke that down as to what our players that are coming from out of state and they're coming into Colorado, how they're being affected by the altitude, and the fact that there are a couple of different cycles that you go through with altitude. And right now we are well into our chronic adaptiveness phase. And you can tell by looking at these guys. Now, when they first got here around the first week of January, and they started into their strength and conditioning workouts that they've been doing for a couple of months now, you've noticed that like when they were doing up downs and wind sprints and things like that, you could tell that their athleticism that they had when they were coming here was not exactly shown in those videos in the early parts of the videos. And a lot of that was due to the fact their bodies weren't acclimated yet. And so they were in the acute adaptiveness phase, and their bodies were trying to build up red blood cells, and their capillaries are trying to create a little bit more density to get more blood going into the muscles. Over the time from when we saw those videos, Coach Mo just drilling those guys, all the way now to spring practice, we have gone well past 30 days. We've actually gone past 60 days for most of these guys. So they're well into the chronic adaptiveness phase. So what's happened is now their bodies have tons more red blood cells and hemoglobin. Their lungs are able to process more oxygen into the blood, which gets to their muscles, which actually has now brought, from when they first got here, their hearts were racing to try to get more blood into the muscles to kind of keep up with that oxygen intake. Now their heart rate's starting to settle. Their red blood cells have multiplied to the point where now their bodies have actually started to acclimate, and they're able to exercise at the same levels they did from where they're from, if they're not from Colorado, at the same level. So now they're not seeing the fatigue that they saw a couple of months ago, and they're able to practice at the same rate they would have if they had been in Jackson or something like that. And a lot of that had to do with the diet and supplementation that they were given during this time period too. So high carbohydrate diets, which converts fuel to energy pretty fast and without a lot of oxygen intake. You saw Prime trying some beetroot extract, but there's a lot of iron supplements that actually helps in this process as well. Over time and working out, they've actually developed their bodies into finely tuned machines now. Now, if you haven't already gone and checked out the CU's Altitude Advantage video that I did a month and a half ago, this would be a good time to do it. At the end of this video, I'm actually going to have it on an end card. So when you watch this video all the way through, click on that end card and you can watch the in-depth, more detailed video of kind of what these athletes are going through, what our summer athletes that are going to be coming after their spring semesters over at their colleges that they're at, and they're going to be coming to Colorado to do some summer training. They're going to restart this phase. And also anybody that leaves Colorado, goes back home, let's say to Florida, and might be there for a couple of months coming back, their bodies are not going to be acclimated the same way. They're still going to have to go through the same process over again, although it will be much easier the second time around. But let's bring up spring break, for instance. So we have spring break next week. They're fully acclimated, or getting to the point where they're fully acclimated. When they go back to sea level, let's say they go to the beach and they were to work out, they would notice almost immediately a performance gain versus where they were at before they came to Colorado. Now that gain is because their red blood cells and their capillary density is so high right now that when they go back to an oxygen-rich environment, they're actually pouring more oxygen into their muscles than they would have otherwise because of those extra red blood cells. So if they were to do, 40s are kind of hard to time like that because it's such a short distance. What we're talking about more is endurance training, but they might shave a 1/10 off of their 40 time now. There's just no telling. They'd have to go out and try that. But their endurance is going to be much better. And they will notice that right off the bat. I am almost willing to bet they will notice that right off the bat. And keep in mind also that part of the renovation that Folsom Field went through 2014, 2015, they added the UC Health Champion Center right on the corner there. That actually houses the football operations program. It also houses the CU Sports Medicine and Performance Center inside that same facility. And that program also has a University of Colorado Altitude Research Center where they study the effects of altitude on not only athletes, but also people that live at high altitude. And this is a really super interesting topic because there are a handful of schools in the United States that really can take advantage of this altitude thing. I think that our facilities are set up better than almost any other facility that I've seen or read about when it comes to actually helping athletes take advantage of high altitude training and getting the best benefits out of that to help us going forward into this next season. So that's a wrap from Alpine Garage Sports. If you haven't seen that CU Altitude Advantage video, it's going to be showing up on the end card here in just a few seconds. But before you do that, subscribe to our channel. We are CU fans and we're going to be doing this all year and we want you to come along with us. And please comment down below. We want to know who you are, where you're from, and what you're about, and what brought you to CU football if you haven't already been a fan. And welcome to everybody. We'll see you in this next video, CU's Altitude Advantage. And if you haven't already heard, we coming.